Welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys Alex and Ryan. So yesterday we talked about how this Knicks team, this front office has rebuilt the depth on this roster. Talking about the wings, the caliber of OG Anunoby, and the acquisition of Mikal Bridges. Now a lot of people either way could say, if you're not a Knicks fan, the Knicks gave up a lot, 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. But listen, this is a guy with 2 more years left on a really, really affordable contract. Specifically his cap hit this upcoming season is $23.3 million, and then $24.9 million for the year after that. The truth is, Bridges is worth much more, and the Knicks wanted to get him on this team at a really affordable and reasonable price tag because he could be the secret ingredient, not even so secret, the real ingredient to a championship in 2024-25. So, looking at this Knicks team right now, what Bridges brings to the table, the difference between him and a guy like, Donte DiVincenzo starting or Josh Hart starting, who now will be kind of rotational pieces. They'll get starting minutes, don't get me wrong, but more so rotational pieces because of the newfound starters on the wing. But, Ryan, looking at Mikal Bridges, what he brings to the team, what do you think is the primary difference that he has, like the catalyst, the different variables that he brings that maybe we didn't have before? I think the first and foremost, he brings elite defense to the club.
Yeah, I think Mikal Bridges is one of those players who, again, just fits the mold of what a championship contender needs. He is a two-way wing. He has done an excellent job, really, on both sides of the ball, and he is the kind of guy who fits in seamlessly to any organization, to any lineup, to any team, to whatever you want to call it. There isn't a team in the NBA that couldn't use a player like Mikal Bridges. I guess you could argue the Celtics, because they have their 2 wings in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But outside of that, and again, they were, remarkably good last season. Outside of that, every team in the NBA could use Mikal Bridges. And I know the Knicks, again, as you mentioned, paid a very hefty price tag, but I think they're going to get an elite level role player. And I don't use the phrase role player in a derogatory manner. I think the NBA has overly criticized the kind of the archetype of a role player, the kind of player who's more of a facilitator, and I'm not saying a playmaker, somebody who creates opportunities for others, whether that's, the defensive side of the ball, easing the defensive effort for other players, whether that's being an excellent spot-up shooter, a guy who can put the ball on the floor and create his own shot, who can, generate gravity and pull defenders towards his location and create catch-and-shoot opportunities for other players on the basketball court. He is an important piece that just improves the quality of shot for everybody else. He decreases the defensive difficulty for everybody else. This is a guy who I think is really going to have a huge impact in New York. And, when we're looking at how this team projects moving forward, how this team can improve going forward, having a guy like Mikal Bridges offsets what you lose with Isaiah Hartenstein, going from Hartenstein to Mitchell Robinson, in my opinion. And it doesn't just offset it, I think it makes you better. I've said this before, I think the upgrade from DiVincenzo to Bridges for this lineup is greater than the downgrade from Hartenstein to Robinson. And the reason I say that is strictly because of defense. I know that Donte DiVincenzo this isn't a criticism of Donte DiVincenzo. This is just a role thing, right? This is just kind of the way you have to operate in an offense. The Knicks aren't going to have DiVincenzo play the same role he did offensively this year if everybody's healthy because of Julius Randle being their second option. I understand, people have their opinions on Julius Randle, but as we discussed in our video talking about whether the Knicks should trade him or not, where we were very adamant that they just shouldn't, I think that it's important to know that Randle is their second best scorer. It's not DiVincenzo. It's just straight up not. He can do things offensively. He can create his own shot. He can do things that he being DiVincenzo simply cannot. And defensively, you're getting a lot better with Bridges. Bridges defensively is such an incredible defensive player. He eases the defensive load on Randle, who actually was in like the 80th, I think, percentile in defensive matchup difficulty. So if you can kind of shift that more towards being, let's say, in the 50th percentile, the 60th percentile in terms of defensive difficulty, I think that would really help because for Randle, he's a big body, he's got the size, and he's got some things he needs to work on the defensive end of the court, but if you ease the defensive matchups, you make it easier for him by having him not have to guard like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Instead, putting him maybe on a Derek White or, kind of playing help defense and sagging off of a big like Porzingis, I think that just improves your team defense. And like Mikal Bridges, he's just such a versatile and valuable player. The Knicks are really good at player acquisition. You know this, Alex. They don't trade significant capital on the draft or player market for a player they don't think will help them. They didn't trade the haul it took to get Donovan Mitchell, and it ended up being one of the best moves they didn't make really in the last 10 years. Could you imagine if they make that trade? They have Brunson and Mitchell as the backcourt. I don't think that backcourt works. I don't think defensively that thing is going to work for you. They wouldn't have had Anunoby because they would have traded Barrett. They wouldn't have had they wouldn't have had Grimes. They probably wouldn't have signed DiVincenzo. That team just wouldn't be as good as the team they have right now. So when they go out and get a guy, it's because they think they're really good and they know they can improve them in this system.
Yeah, I mean, they would have been really top-heavy, right? They would have been top-heavy at the point guard position with Mitchell and Brunson. You don't have the money then to go out and get those key role players. And like you said, role players is it's a belittling term to some people, but I don't see that at all. DiVincenzo plays a very specific high caliber role in shooting 3-pointers at an elite level. They just need to have that ball movement, that, unselfishness, you could say. And the thing I love about Mikal Bridges is that he comes in with immediate chemistry with guys like Brunson, Josh Hart, and Devo, all Villanova standouts. So you're kind of looking at this combination. The Knicks bring in players who will have immediate chemistry and be able to assimilate really, really quickly, and that's what makes them so special. They don't bring in guys that are going to take a full year or two to become a piece of the puzzle. Like RJ Barrett just never carved out a role for himself in this team that was he fits this role, he fits this team. Emmanuel Quickly, love the guy. I think he would have been a pretty solid fit. They just needed to offload him to get OG over here, and they didn't want to pay him. So I understand why they did it, but I thought he was an excellent player for this Knicks team. But looking at what they've done, Bridges, and keep in mind, guys, you look at the last 2 years of Bridges, last year and a half, really, the Brooklyn Nets completely destroyed him. They didn't destroy him as a player. They destroyed the opportunities he was getting. And what I mean by that is, for some reason, the second half of last season, they focused on getting Cam Thomas all the open looks, all the ball handling, all the movement. It was all about developing Cam Thomas and letting him score a lot of points. And I get that was their only offense, but Bridges is a tremendous scorer. I mean, if we go back to his 2022-23 season, when he spent time between the Phoenix Suns and the Brooklyn, which most of it was with Phoenix, 56 games compared to 27, he scored 20.1 points with 4.4 rebounds and 3.3 assists. The year before that, he was an all-defense player, ranked second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He's never played less than 72 games in a given season. That's a really big asset. How about the health variable here, Ryan? Just looking at kind of how important it is that we have a guy who's going to play 70-plus games every single season. Of course, knock on wood, but they can give him 34-plus minutes per game, and he is going to play every single game for the most part with minimal time missed. That is something that the Knicks have not had in a long time, right? Randall's been relatively healthy aside from that injury last year. And you have guys like Brunson played 77 games last season. Josh Hart's a workhorse. Devo's usually healthy. How important is the health variable that Mikal Bridges stays healthy? That way, when guys do get hurt, if they do, grueling NBA season, they have someone they can lean on in Bridges, who's a secondary star that can step up and really lead this team.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about expecting, game planning, kind of building your roster. How many games can you expect reasonably from certain guys on the roster? Can't ask for 82 from Anunoby. You just can't build your team to get 82 games out of Anunoby. That is crazy. That would be insane to do. That is just not strong planning. You aren't setting yourself up to, you're not thinking realistically. But when it comes to Mikal Bridges, he is one of those guys that you feel like you can push a little bit, get 70 to 80 games out of, push their minute total. That is the kind of player Bridges is. And that's valuable because, as I just mentioned with Anunoby, yes, there are going to be games where you need to rest him, you need to manage his minutes, whatever it may be. Bridges plays that same role, right? Bridges is more than capable of being your primary defender. That's what he was in Phoenix. He was just a primary defense guy, didn't really do much offensively until his later years, and that team was freaking good, man. I know they ended up losing to the Bucks in the finals, but let's not kid ourselves. That team could have won the NBA Finals with Booker and Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton and Cam Johnson. That team could have won the NBA Finals. That team was unbelievably good. The year after, they won 60-something games. They ended up choking to Dallas, but that team was also more than capable of winning the finals. They just underperformed. So when I look at the Knicks, right, is Jalen Brunson right now the equivalent of player that Devin Booker was that year? Those years and currently, absolutely. I'd argue Jalen Brunson might be a better player than Devin Booker right now. Chris Paul, where was he relative to the league at that point? Is Julius Randle capable of matching that production? I would say yes. I would say he's more than capable of providing that level of value, not saying the playmaking or the type of archetypal player he is. That's not really comparable. We all know that Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer, excellent defensive guard, one of the best defensive point guards in NBA history. Randall's profile isn't a small point guard who plays great defense. It's kind of a bully man forward. But I'm just saying in terms of being a number two. Anunoby and Bridges, like, is Bridges capable of being as good as he was before? I think he's more than capable. I don't think that's crazy to say. Is Anunoby better than Cam Johnson? I think so. And is Mitchell Robinson better than DeAndre Ayton? Absolutely. DeAndre Ayton, they had to trade. They traded him because they couldn't get him to play up to his potential. So, I look at this team and I go, Alex, that is kind of the model. Like, I look at what Bridges was before with the Suns and I go, this team is more than capable of being a better version of that Suns team. They've got the roster, they've got the depth, they've got the star caliber talent. They have Mikal Bridges. So, I don't want to sit here and make it seem like the Knicks, they're this flawless, impeccable team. There are clearly reasons why it won't work or couldn't work, and there are reasons why it could work. But I think for the first time in really my lifetime, Alex, I'm sitting here and I can tell you there is a reason why the New York Knicks will win the NBA Finals this year. And it's not some crazy delusion take. It's because they're really damn good. And that's why Mikal Bridges is such an important get. I would trade $1 billion first-round picks to be a team that can contend for the NBA Finals. Bridges is that kind of player that takes the duo of Brunson and Randall, who are your two best players, and makes them into that kind of team. Anunoby is that kind of role player. There's a reason he's making $200 million. It's because he's a 99th percentile defensive player. He's arguably the best defensive player in the NBA, in a league where defense matters just as much as offense, arguably, and he's not a negative asset on the offense side of the ball either. If we're talking about a 99th percentile player on one side of the ball and like a 50th percentile player on the other side of the ball, we're talking about a superstar if we're talking about offense, but for defense, it's not considered that kind of player. I think that's BS. I think Anunoby's that good. Mikal Bridges might be the fourth best player on this team. And that's crazy to say because, I mean, teams value him as a number 2 on a championship contender, right? Like, that's the value he had. And he might be this team's fourth best player. They are more than set to contend. And I'm so excited to see what this team does because, I mean, this is such a smartly built roster. This is Leon Rose's. He's in the lab. He's cooking. This is the Walter White special, man.
Oh, yeah. Him and, what was his name? I forget the other guy from Breaking Bad. But, yeah, they've been cooking in the lab. I mean, they even have the RV.
Jesse, there we go.
Yeah, Jesse Walter in the freaking van. They got all the good equipment, man. Even Gus, he hooked them up with the good stuff. This is a different type of operation that we're watching unfold before our eyes, right? This is a different types of Knicks front office with the decision making to be proactive and understand they're in a window right now to compete for a championship and going out and making the moves necessary to win it, right? Bridges is not just a random star you're adding to a team. This is a guy with experience with 3 of your current players. You're not just going out and getting a guy who's going to have to spend half a season getting into the mix here. He is going to step in on day one and have chemistry with these guys. And that is a very unique situation, and which is why and also, by the way, he knows how to handle New York. He's also a really good guy, like a genuinely good dude, and he knows how to handle the media here. So like, he was the perfect option. It's just really, really awesome to see this Knicks team making the right decisions. I wish the Yankees could take a page out of this book and be like, every move had a purpose. Every move made sense. Every move was done because there was positive value there.
It's not like fan pressure. Like, they traded for Anunoby, and they didn't give a shit that fans were going to be upset about it. They don't care about that stuff. That is, like, everyone gets upset that Leon Rose doesn't talk to the media. I'm glad he doesn't talk to the media. What is he going to tell the media that I need to hear? We're really good. This player's good. Give me some BS about a player. No, he doesn't have to address crap. I don't need him to address anybody. I need him to just make the moves needed to make a championship contender. The Knicks it's crazy because you would never say this about the Knicks 5 years ago. It's incredible how they've gone from a bottom barrel organization, not just in basketball, but in all of sports, to one of the best ran teams in basketball. Like, go Celtics number 1. I think they're better ran than Denver. I think they're better ran than Milwaukee. It's what, Boston and like, I'd say OKC. OKC and Boston are the two teams that are really well ran that you could argue are better ran than the Knicks. Everybody else, I think the Knicks are better ran than them, and I feel pretty confident in saying that. And that's crazy to say. Think of the value they get. DiVincenzo, insane. If you rank the best contracts in the NBA, How many Knicks do you go through before you get to the next player? McBride making $3 million a year. DiVincenzo's an insane contract. Josh Hart is an unbelievable contract. Jalen Brunson's the best contract in the NBA. Jalen Brunson went from the best contract in the NBA to the best contract in the NBA again. This is an unbelievably deep, stacked, great value roster. Like, if they win a title, Leon Rose is going to go down as one of the best executives in New York history. Like, I don't even think that's exaggeration. He will go down as one of the best executives in New York history.
Yeah, I mean, look what they've done to turn this team around. We're talking about like 3 years ago, guys, with like Elfrid Payton starting games. You know what I mean? Like we were in a position where this team was in disarray, and now fast forward 2 years later, this team looks like they're ready to make a really, really legitimate run at a chip, and we have all the pieces and a lot of cost-controlled pieces too. Look, all you need is that one missing center, and I don't see why this team can't win it all. You know what I mean? All you're missing is that one last piece. I know for a fact the Knicks are going to find it. It's just a matter of being patient, and I think that this is what we're seeing. We've been like, oh, like what are the Knicks going to do? Like, talk about it nonstop. Like, what center? What this? What that? They're doing what they've always done the last 2 years. Remain patient. Let the right move come to them, and that ultimately will be the right decision. So I'm excited to see how Bridges makes an impact this upcoming year. It's going to be such a freaking fun team to watch. We'll be here all season as always, my friends. Make sure to drop your thoughts and conversation starters in the YouTube comment section. Like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode.